This is IsAware, powered by Intersoft Associates. IsAware is your connection to exploring the systems and software that power businesses like yours with expert insight, experience, and advice.
Welcome back to IsAware. I'm Chris Bintliff, and I'm here as always with Abe Unger and Hi Goldstaff from Intersoft Associates. And guys, we've talked a little bit about how custom software development can really make an impact on business processes and systems and how those things can be improved. I thought today would be good to explore some examples of that. So can you share some real world examples that would help me as a listener to kind of put myself in that position and understand some of the ways that I might be experiencing some inefficiencies or some gaps or some roadblocks, and how some of those things can be solved, maybe in ways that I hadn't thought. Abe, let's talk with you first. What are some examples you have or some ideas that come to mind where some custom development really helped improve some business processes?
Sure. I'll talk about one that I've sort of mentioned in the past before, but I'll mention it again because it's near and dear to my heart. It was an interesting project, and there were a lot of people involved, so it was very interesting to work on. It was the process at Pearson where they were trying to get the payments for the New York City public schools, where a lot of information was required in order for them to get payment. So the issue was they needed to provide proof of delivery. They were sending books to the schools, and in order for the schools to pay for it, they needed to provide that proof, that signature proof that somebody signed and the package was received, and then they would get their payment. So the process involved somebody going through every invoice, literally on a piece of paper, going through invoices, then going to the various sites, be it FedEx, UPS, or whatever it was, downloading the signature images, putting that all together, gathering all that digital information, saving that, putting it on a disk, mailing that over to the public school. Then the public schools would do their part, matching all of that up, doing whatever they needed to do. And then you can imagine the back and forth between, oh, you missed this one, you missed that one, how about this? The signature is not clear enough, we didn't include it, we forgot it on the disk, so on and so forth. We couldn't read the disk. So this whole back and forth process that took many man hours, many different people involved in doing all of this work. And it took weeks, if not more, until the payments actually came through. And the solution for us was, why have someone manually do all of this? We spoke about it in our API conversation. There are function calls out there that you can use to get this information. And the invoices were digitalized in our system. So we knew every single invoice. We knew exactly the data. We knew exactly what the tracking numbers were. We were able to go ahead and write all of the code to go pull that information, download that, cache it, store it. We stored information for every invoice, regardless of whether it was New York City Public School or anybody else. It didn't really matter. We had the information so that if someone tomorrow decides they want to do the same kind of process, they want proof, we have it. We have it cached in the system. And that saved hours and hours of man time going through all of this manually. All of the information was there. With a click of a button, a file was created, which was then sent over to the public schools with reconciliation of exactly which invoices, which signatures, and a PDF of everything that they needed. So all of the information was there, saving them time, saving them money. And then aside from just the savings in time and money, the billing, the payments came in much sooner just because of that. That's, simple example, simple problem, simple solution, tremendous benefit.
Tremendous benefit.
Yeah. And also the downstream issue that was avoided is that these signatures are not maintained on the various websites for more than 6 months to a year. So, if someone complained about someone had an outstanding balance outside the New York City school system, but if someone had an outstanding balance that was more than a year, we could never get that proof of delivery. And this was just an ancillary benefit. Now we created a data warehouse of all of these proofs of delivery. So if someone had a problem, we were able to simply and then we interface that to their entire collection process. Someone was able to immediately send them an email with the invoice, with the proof of delivery. And even though it might have been really old, it accelerated the payment from what it would have been. And in many cases, having people say, "Well, I never got it."
So, you talked about downstream Hi, and Abe, as you were talking about the situation, I was kind of thinking about like compounding or cascading catastrophe. Like what seems like a problem that might be this narrow affects somebody else, affecting somebody else, affecting somebody else. Hi, do you find that that's indicative or representative of a lot of dysfunction in business processes that we might think the problem is here, but if you were to follow the thread, you'd find a tapestry of disaster all over the place because one thing is knocking over all these dominoes?
Well, yeah, I mean, you have the problem of, organizations being somewhat, silo driven. Everybody's in their own silo. They're using common data, and the data is a corporate asset, which is really, really important to realize. And, people are concerned about, doing their own job. They're not necessarily concerned about doing someone else's job. Someone who can go in there and look at that and say, well, this might affect this department. Let's go and investigate that. Can bring that all together and can essentially, cascade the benefit with little incremental cost. So to really, really make it a much better business case and have one version of a truth, where there's one version of data that's accurate for the entire organization. Because many, in these little silos, you occasionally get, little systems, be it an Access database or an Excel spreadsheet that people run on. Let them run on the proper version of a truth where everybody can benefit from, the value of that data.
Can you share with me an illustration or an example of when you've encountered that, where there were these sort of mini systems that were ultimately competing against each other, or at least not creating sort of a unified approach, and how you then rectified that or approached that or innovated against that?
Sure. I mean, there are a couple of examples. Pearson happens to be an organization that grew through acquisition. They have a whole bunch of different imprints, and each one of these imprints in the area of rights management, that is the acquisition of or the management of rights, be it to sell the rights, be it to repurpose the right, or to acquire the right, were run in different silos, different imprints within the organization, different subject matter, be it biology, chemistry. They all had their own little groups. And many of the large organizations had their own system to manage this, generally written on a database, like DBase or FoxPro or FileMaker, whatever it might be. And we found that they weren't doing things the proper way. There was an initiative to go and deal with that. And we got all of these, all the various, stakeholders in a room and, discussed what are your requirements? And everybody said, their business is different. We do things this way. We do things that way. And it took someone to go and tell them, hey, you're selling intellectual property. I don't care if it's a biology textbook. I don't care if it's a third grade reading textbook. You're selling intellectual property. 80% of what you're doing has got to be common. So let's all agree on that. And then let's all go and then look at the special cases and see how we can have, a common design and a common set of functionalities, which we did in a 3-day workshop. And, and so all the little fiefdoms, basically were retired, and we built the system, to manage that for the entire organization.
So as part of that conversation, interestingly enough, when we were talking about all the different processes from the different businesses, they started to think about, oh, the way you're doing things, that's a great idea. We should incorporate some of that process into ours. So now we took the 20% that was different and sort of made that common between the divisions, saying those are great ideas. We should do that as well. So by the time we were done, 95% of it was the same because they all took up those other processes and said, I want to do it that way, or I want to change, or I can do that, or I can see how that can benefit what we're doing, or that's an area that we've thought we couldn't tackle, and now you have a great solution for that. So just by talking about that together, we were able to improve that.
And what you get with those kinds of conversations and that kind of analysis is a situation where 1 and 1 equals 3. Yep. You take the best of both worlds and then, then add to that. So that's another one. I mean, we also mentioned, previously, there were a couple of, ancillary benefits from, one of the systems we did, a highly manual process to requisition checks, and to recoup or to avoid paying unnecessary royalties. And that was just an ancillary benefit because we understood that there was data within the organization beyond what the groups we were working with were aware of that allowed us to get that data. So that's just understanding the whole organization, taking a holistic approach to all the data in an organization. And early on, we make a point of understanding where they get their data from. What are the sources? Are they public sources? Are they internal? What are the databases, or what are the information sitting within the organization that we might be able to leverage? So that's an important part of improving the process, is knowing what you have, that you can leverage.
We've talked about the value of a consultant before and the unique skill set and then mindset that person brings in. And one of the things that I hear, Abe, is the value of this sort of outside perspective can help people with this, these mini systems that just get bigger over time in different business units or different departments or whatever, who don't understand the opportunities that they have for better collection or connection and communication, where they can benefit from learning from each other until somebody facilitates that. Do you agree with that? Is that something that you uncover a lot, which is, well, I didn't know you guys were doing that. That's a great idea. We should do that too. And pretty soon, as you pointed out, we're starting to dance to the same beat.
Right. No, absolutely. It happens over and over again. And another example of one of the things we had to do in the past had dealt with a cash forecasting process where we had to take a lot of data from various systems and give the people some kind of a forecasting in terms of collections and how they would collect and all that. And again, there were multiple divisions. This goes into silos where each division was doing their data differently. But ultimately, it was people, it was customers, it was invoices, it was payments. And based on that, you can do all your calculations. So it didn't matter exactly how they formatted their data. But again, once we started talking about this with one of the divisions and we demonstrated that we can do this, all of the others started saying, that's a great tool. We've been doing this manually for years. And again, just because they started talking outside of their department to somebody else who does something that's maybe similar but maybe different, but there are commonalities, you start to build on that. And we rolled out this cash forecasting process for imprint after imprint, division after division, one after the next, using the same exact logic. All we had to do is get their data, plug it in. So they benefited from the fact that we had built the forecasting system, and all they had to do was send us files or send us data, depending on what systems it was. Either it was Excel spreadsheets, or it was an Oracle database, or it was a SQL database, as I mentioned, a Foxborough database. But any of these other systems, we were able to incorporate their data into ours and give them these results. And month after month, do this forecasting for them, which helped all of their collection agents. And they also knew where to focus, larger clients, smaller clients, who pays, who doesn't pay. How many times do I have to follow up with this guy? How many times do I have to follow up with that guy? And by doing all of this forecasting, they were able to focus their entire department. So again, just from that communication and understanding, yes, we were there to help them, and we were there to bring them into the world of this can be done programmatically. We can help you do that.
Hmm. What's interesting to me, is when I'm encountering a situation like that, I always have some perspective on what this is costing me or what the tax is. Hey, we know that there's a real inefficiency, but Abe is pointing out benefits that I don't foresee and opportunities that I don't foresee. And again, that just connects back to me having a skilled listener, a skilled expert who can take this breadth of knowledge and experience and find these opportunities that don't just maybe relieve the pain that you think you've been experiencing, but find new pain relievers, new opportunities you didn't even realize existed. I mean, that's just a huge opportunity for organizations to do more and do better with less resources and less effort required.
Ultimately, it lets people, get away from the drudgery of what their job may entail and do more high value work. Now they know the organization, they know the culture, they know all that. And if we can get them to do more high valued activities, there's another benefit over there, that will hopefully, go right down to the bottom line.
Guys, thanks for today's conversation. I took a lot of practical advice away, and one of those is just collaboration, the benefit of collaboration. When addressing business process improvement, and you've shared some really great illustrations and examples with us today. Hi Goldstoff and Abe Unger from Intersoft Associates. As always, fascinating conversation, guys. Thanks so much for your time and expertise today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for IsAware, and a special thanks to our subscribers. Consider becoming one today. IsAware is powered by Intersoft Associates, who believes the more you know about your IT, the better. Visit us at intersoftassociates.com and schedule your free consultation to talk about how custom software can help your business.